to the third episode of the Sweater Weather Podcast. My name is Pamela and I'm coming to you from Northern Ontario, Canada. Happy Pride Month, everybody. And I want everyone to know they are in a very safe, inclusive space here. No hate, only love. And with that, let's continue. So this is a space where we talk about knitting, crochet, other fiber arts, or other creative pursuits. Really, it's wide open. I focus mostly on knitting and crochet, but I may talk about other creative endeavors that I am engaged in from time to time. Anything goes, really. The first thing that we should probably talk about are finished objects. So I have two finished objects. They're both scarves and they're both straight knit scarves. Nothing fancy. They're from Deep Stash, so I don't have any information about the yarn except that it is acrylic yarn. I believe it's Lion brand, but I don't know anything about the colorways. So I started working on these actually quite a long time ago, and I had put them aside. I was using I'm gonna have to insert the name of what it's called because now I forget what they're called. They're plastic, they're for knitting, and I'll insert the name. Okay. Anyways, sometimes I use those to help me knit if my hands are hurting. I find it's easier because you're just inserting a little tool similar to a crochet hook and working your knitting stitches that way. Anyways, here it is. They're very long. So this is one. And as you can see, I changed colorways on the last third of the scarf. It's still in the same family of colors, but not exactly the same. So let's say that that is a feature, not a bug. Okay, we'll call that a knitting feature, a feature of this scarf. I have blocked it, so I'll just put this one aside. And I also finished this one. Again, similar idea, similar type of yarn, and it is Lion brand, I believe, acrylic yarn. I think I just really liked the color and the feel of it when I originally purchased it. It's definitely from Michael's. And I have blocked it, but you'll see that I have this long strand here. And the reason is, although I consider it a finished object, I am going to make it into an infinity scarf. So I'm going to attach the two pieces, and not just in a loop. I'm going to do it in the figure 8. There is a tutorial about that I found that really explains it well, and how to attach the two pieces. So I will be doing that. And as with everything that I talk about in the podcast, I will link that information below. Okay, so those are my two finished objects. Moving on to whips, so works in progress. I have a few whips, so let's start with this one. This is my flax sweater. I talked about it on the last episode, and I think I even talked about it on the episode before that. So if you've been with me here before, you've already seen it. It's living in a beach bag, so it's a clean beach bag that's never been used. It has pockets inside, and I just love the size of it. And it actually came with this little pom-pom, so I can attach if I want to, I can attach progress keepers or stitch markers on there. I just find it very handy, and it's waterproof, so if I put it on the floor of the car and it's wet or what have you, it won't go through to the yarn. So that makes me happy. So I'll show you how much I have done since the last time I showed this project. So the flax sweater, I'm knitting for a knit along with Cabin Boy Knits. Actually, they're wrapping it up in the next couple weeks, and I don't know if I'm going to be done, because as you will see, I've also started something else. This sweater is on a Collins worsted weight from Georgian Bay Fibers. It's she's indie dyer here in Northern Ontario, and this colorway is called Wobuna Gale. So I got this much done since the last time I podcasted. I don't know how much credit I can take for it, because it's just straight knitting in the round, but I still feel proud of getting this much accomplished. And I like knitting it because it's so easy to just go around and around, and you can do it while you're watching TV, or honestly a myriad of things. You can do it in the car, super easy. I think I do have to start the ribbing now, which would take a little bit more brain power, but still pretty straightforward. I'm gonna put this back in its project bag. The flax sweater is a pattern by Tin Can Knits, free pattern by Tin Can Knits, and I know I will be knitting more of those in the future. I really like the fact that it goes all the way down to baby size, so I know I will definitely want to knit more of those in the future. I'm just going to put this aside. So, in this really nice bag by Longview Creations, I'm not sure of the lady's name who runs Longview Creations, but she has a shop on Etsy, and she has really nice bags, and they're lined, and again they have the black on the bottom, which I really like, because I don't have to worry about getting dirty and that sort of thing. So I have cast on you won't recognize it, but I have cast on a Ranunculus sweater. I just started it, so this is the waist yarn that I have not taken off yet. I'm doing the smaller neck hole with the ribbing, and when you finish the ribbing, you're supposed to remove the waist yarn. It makes me nervous to do that, to remove the waist yarn, even though everybody says that it's fine, it won't all unravel, but anyways, I haven't done it yet. So I finished the ribbing, and I finished the short row shaping at the front and the back, and I'm just starting to get into the yoke pattern, which is a beautiful pattern. It's a pattern by Midori Hirose, and it's been knit for sure by thousands of people, because if you go on Ravelry, there's 2,800 project pages, and there's many people who have knit it who have never put it in their project pages. So it's definitely a well-loved pattern. Many podcasters have knit it. I started mine, or I cast mine on, because Selma from Little Big Knits is running a Ranunculus cal, and I thought I would join in. Now I have, as you can see, if you're wondering, you may be wondering what this white yarn is. It's a lifeline. So as soon as I finish the short row shaping, I put a lifeline in. I have to have lifelines because I'm often taking back, and I would like to do the minimum amount of that I have to do. For some reason, when I first get started on a garment, it seems, or anything really, it seems like it takes me a while to really get the hang of it. I constantly have to redo my cast on. it kind of drives my husband a little bit crazy because to him they may be minor errors and I should just keep going. But to me, knitting is about the process more than the finished object. So I enjoy it, but I want it to be done properly, and I love learning new things. So for example, with my flax sweater, I learned how to do spit splicing because that is 100% Collins worsted weight Canadian wool. And so because it's 100% wool, you can spit splice the skeins together or the cakes together when you run out of yarn. And I wanted to try that. So I watched the tutorial by Very Pink Knits on YouTube, and she really explains it well. You have to use a lot of spit, don't be shy, but it really joins together nicely. I should mention I have my coffee here. I hope you have a nice beverage, be it warm and cozy or cold and refreshing. I have my coffee in my camp mug, nice Canadian buffalo print on the side. This is actually a microwavable mug, which I was surprised to see. And it may or may not have a shot of Bailey's in there. Hashtag it does. Anyways, back to my Ranunculus sweater. I kind of have a humorous story to, it's humorous, but it's highly embarrassing to me, story about this sweater. So when I started, let me put this yarn down. When I started working on this sweater, you start off with a certain amount of stitches, and then you increase the stitches, and her patterns are, every line is written out, so it's super straightforward. And if there are any stitches that you don't know, it's very easy to go on YouTube, find a short tutorial, and she actually has a lot of videos for the sweater itself that you can view as well. So because some of this sweater has knit through the back loop stitches on it, I find that the stitches are a bit twisted, as they should be. But what happens is when you're trying to do the increase that she specifies, I find it hard to do that particular increase. So in my brilliance, I decided that I would substitute a different increase for the one that she had in the pattern. And I did that, and then I promptly forgot about it. But what happened was I ended up having not as many stitches on the needles as she specifies in the pattern after my increases. So I did the math and I was dumbfounded. I could not understand why I had 80 stitches instead of 90 stitches. I didn't think the math and the pattern worked properly. I talked to my husband about it, but I did not mention to him that I had changed the type of increase that I used. I kind of forgot about that part, so I kind of left that part out of the story. So I showed him the pattern and whatnot, and he said he couldn't figure it out. So then I decided, well, Midori Hirose and all of the thousands of people who have knit this sweater must have not noticed that there's a mistake in the pattern. I kept thinking that's impossible, but the math doesn't work. So I'm just gonna send an email to Midori and ask her about it. Anyways, and then I decided that I would ask the question in my Facebook group. So I have, I'm a member of several knitting groups on Facebook, and I thought I didn't want to wait for Midori to have to realize she had made this error and rewrite the pattern. So I thought maybe I'll just ask the Facebook group why I don't have the correct number of stitches after increasing. Anyways, as it turned out, not all, and the people in my Facebook group were very kind in pointing out that not all increases are created equal. Some use a stitch and some do not. And I had substituted the type of increase that does not use a stitch with one that does, and therefore ended up with not the right amount. Anyways, it's quite embarrassing. So I have to send another email just to tell her to ignore my question, because as it turns out, the thousands of people who have completed this pattern prior to me doing it were right and I am wrong, despite my arrogance that I thought me, who is a newish knitter, spotted an error that nobody else could possibly have noticed. Anyways, so I'm actually enjoying working on that sweater. And so I'm knitting it on, I really like my Chalgu needles, and that I'm knitting my flax sweater for my husband on Chalgu needles, in the interchangeables. I have a set and I really like it, but I also have this set of Knitter's Pride bamboo needles, and I'm using this for the Ranunculus sweater. And this is kind of a neat set because it's on this side. If you want to, you can put the pattern on this side, and you can use this magnet to follow where you are, and then you also have other magnets to hold the paper down if you so choose. I'm not actually using that feature. I prefer to print off patterns and then I highlight as I go, but it's a nice feature. It actually stands up, so you can put your pattern like this. But again, I'm not using that part. So, but anyways, I just thought I would show you because I thought this was a cute interchangeable set. And I bought a lot of extra cord to go in between the needles so that I have all different sizes, and I bought extra pieces to join them together in case I want to make a bigger or a longer cord for a large shawl or something to that effect. I take a drink of this coffee while it's still nice and warm. Very good. Okay, let's talk about, I also have, as a work in progress, I should mention my poor Rings of Rings cowl. I haven't worked on it. It's so close to being done. There's only a few rows left, but for some reason I just put it aside. Sometimes you lose your knitting mojo on a particular project, and at that point you just need to put it aside and work on something else. So that is what I'm doing. So acquisitions, I have a couple of acquisitions. I have this. This is, I joined a sock club from Galt House of Yarn, and what I really loved is that they send you the pattern printed out. I think I can't remember, but I think maybe I had to pick whether I wanted it sent out in a paper format or just a link. Some people may not want the extra garbage, let's say, or the use of paper. I really enjoy paper, and also I really appreciated it that they put it in this plastic, because that's how I keep my patterns, are in plastic. So they sent a nice pattern, and then really cool, they sent the yarn in this I was gonna say freeze-dried. It's not freeze-dried. They've just taken the air out of the packaging to make it easier to ship in the envelope. So I'm gonna open the packaging. because I haven't actually done that yet. I was waiting to do it with my friends on the podcast. So this is Zen Yarn Garden Superfine Fingering, 90% superfine superwash merino and 10% nylon. It says the colorway is Poodle Skirt. So I need scissors for this. So what's the easiest way? I'm going to open it from this end right here. Let the air in. Oh, I can already feel it. Floofing up, puffing up. Oh, I love this color. I think if you had watched my episode, one of my other episodes, I talked about a black cherry colorway that I really liked, and this has a similar vibe, although it's more modeled. Like it's got the difference between the bright and the dark is definitely more pronounced on this one, but I absolutely love it. It's gorgeous and it's so soft. Oh, I can't wait to use that. That's really nice. I'm not sure if I will do socks. I still have yet to complete a pair of socks. I had started a pair. They're still not done, but I don't think, if I am going to do a pair of socks, I don't know if I would do these ones because they're lace ribbed. I need to start with some pretty straightforward socks. But the other option too is to do a hat, any kind of a hat that's like a one skein. Well, it's fingering though. Usually you would use like a DK at least, or an Aran weight for a hat. I can use it for socks, but I might not do this pattern. So I'll probably just be saving this pattern until I get a little bit more used to knitting socks. This is beautiful though. And I believe so Galt House of Yarn is a Canadian company or a Canadian store, online store. And I believe I picked their sock club because I thought it was really reasonably priced. So now I see how they save on their shipping costs by removing the air from the packaging. Very good idea. Also, so I also got this. This is exciting for me. So I'm not going to share what I'm going to do with this yarn yet, but I have a really cool project in mind for this yarn. Look at the colors. So this is DK weight, 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, 100 grams, and that is 251 meters. And look at these juicy colors. Like, normally I'm a neutral person. I like neutrals. I like taupes, I like beige, I like black, I like gray. But lollipop, this is a sport weight. Like, I saw these and I just kind of had to have them. Look at the colors, you guys. So this yarn is from To The Max Yarn Company, another Canadian company. This colorway is called Let It Go. This is Taro. Hubba Bubba, and that's exactly what it looks like, is Hubba Bubba Bubblegum, Cantaloupe, Lollipop, and Jolly Rancher. Like, the colors are so juicy. They're just scrumptious. So even though I'm a neutral person, I have a project in mind to use this yarn, and it would be for me. The finished project would actually be for me. I hope I can get my other things done, because the project I have in mind, although you could wear it in the winter, because of all these really nice bright summery colors, I think it would be more fun to wear this finished object in the summer, even at the end of summer. But anyways, I'm gonna just leave that there so you can have a look at that. These colors are just so luscious. Really just yummy. No other words for it, like juicy, yummy, luscious. They're just so, Okay, I think that is, oh, I have another acquisition. Let me get that. I will have to edit that out. Okay, so this yarn, this yarn is from Arcane Fiberworks in Coedale, Alberta. So another Canadian company, another Canadian dyer, indie dyer. I don't have any information or background unless it's on here. Nope, just says Arcane Fiberworks. So they have a website, arcanefiberworks.ca. I guess I keep telling you that I'm a neutral person, and then I keep showing you like all these bright colors. This is called Wild Watermelon. Like, isn't that just amazing? That is amazing. I'll hold it up so you can see it a little bit better. I love that. Put it down here. I also got, oh, I should give you more information about that. So that is a fingering weight, so a sock. It's 85-15 merino nylon. That's all you need to know probably. And then this one is called Night Owl. This is a DK weight. Again, it's 85-15 merino nylon. So you could make socks out of it, or you could make something else if you wanted to. And finally, Kissing Sunflowers. Look at these colors, the yellow. Oh, it's a DK weight again, same base. Like the yellow and the green, Kissing Sunflowers is like the perfect name for this. And again, you can do DK weight socks, you could do a hat with that, you could do anything. You could do anything. No, you can't do anything, but you could do a lot. Anywho, okay, too many acquisitions. My husband has started to notice the amount of yarn coming in to the house, so I might have to slow down on the acquisitions front. If I was knitting it all, that would be a different story, but it's kind of just going into stash, and that's probably not good. Okay, so let's talk about what I am reading. So I don't have any finished books. I'm actually a pretty fast reader, but I haven't been dedicating a lot of time to reading. I usually try and read so I work full time, but I work from home. I worked from home quite a bit even before the pandemic started, but I work from home exclusively since not last March, but the March before. So after work is complete, I usually shut down my work computer, and then I will usually sit and read for half an hour to an hour, just to kind of relax and forget about the daily grind. Although I enjoy my job, I like it, and I love the people I work with. They're awesome. Okay, so I'm currently reading this book. It's called The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. She is the author of The Night Circus. I've never read The Night Circus, but from what I understand from talking to other people and from reviews, you either love The Night Circus or you hate it. There seems to be no middle ground with that one. So far I'm enjoying The Starless Sea. It's very interesting. I don't exactly know what genre I would put it in. I guess I would say fantasy. There is some world building, but it the world that is being built runs concurrently with our current world or our normal world. So I'm not sure if you would classify that as a fantasy, but so far I am enjoying it. It feels like there is a mystery that kind of needs to be solved, and the pieces are coming together like a puzzle. If the pieces don't fit together though, at the end, if a lot of it isn't explained, then I'm probably not going to be happy with the resolution. So hopefully the pieces will come together, because right now it's a lot of various stories within stories that I feel like they need to somehow link up, and I hope they do. It's good so far though, it's keeping me entertained. So hopefully by the next podcast I'll be done and I'll let you know what my final thoughts are. I also ordered this book called The Knitting Sutra, Craft as a Spiritual Practice. I'm not sure if you have been able to tell by my previous podcast, but I'm very interested in knitting as being more than simply something to do with your hands while you're watching TV. Although it's great for that, and I use it for that as well, I think that it can be actually more than that. And when I saw this book, it kind of spoke to me, because I feel sometimes that I get a sense of peace when I'm knitting. It feels very meditative, and I feel like this book would explore that. So honestly, I started it, but I just barely started it. So I can't really tell you how it is yet, but that I'm hoping to be done by the next podcast as well, and then I can let you know what it's like. Okay. Oh, I should mention that I also subscribe to the digital version of Pom Pom magazine. So I am also having a look at that on my iPad. So that is another thing that I'm reading. What am I watching? Currently, I am watching, for the second time around, all the episodes of Schitt's Creek. So actually, the first time I started watching Schitt's Creek, I didn't enjoy it. I watched an episode or two. I stopped watching it. I said, what is all the hype about? This show is not good, and the characters are annoying. And many people loved the show and said, you have to keep watching it. You will fall in love with the characters. And although I couldn't imagine this, I took them seriously, and I sat down. I started it from the beginning again, and I watched it all the way through, and sure enough, I fell in love with all of the characters. That is one of the best shows. I think it's funny, it's heartwarming, I laughed, I cried. Sounds silly, but it's true. It's if you're one of the 5 people on planet Earth who haven't watched Schitt's Creek yet, please watch it. And if you've already watched it, you should watch it again, like I'm doing, because it's so good. It's so funny. And I'm finding that there's so much I'm catching now that I know the characters. There's so much I'm catching in the second viewing that I missed in the first viewing. So it's what I usually watch a couple episodes right before I go to bed at night, and it puts me in a great mood for going to bed and resting and relaxing. So yeah, I'm watching that. What else am I watching? Oh, I started watching Home Before Dark on Apple TV Plus. It's season 2. I did watch season 1. I loved season 1. What I really liked about season 1 was it was a really good story based on a true story, not completely true, but based on a true story about a 9-year-old girl who investigates a crime in her small town and ends up with an article in the New York Times. I think that basic premise is true, but the rest of it's embellished. What I loved about watching season 1 was that this show, even though there was a crime involved and it's an abduction of a young boy, really any age could watch this. Like, the girl is 9 years old, and I think you could have 9-year-olds watching because they don't make it super scary, and it's interesting, and it's a good story, and it's an entertaining story for all ages, adults, but I think also kids and even teens, I think, could watch this and be entertained enough to continue watching. So season 2 just came out, and I've started now watching season 2. So I've only watched the first episode of season 2, but hopefully it is as good as season 1 was, because I really enjoyed it. So what is floating my boat lately? I think something that is really floating my boat lately that I really would like to talk about just briefly are all the beautiful patios opening up for outside dining in the province of Ontario. So because we're slowly opening up, and as the rest of the world, our restaurant industry has been hit really hard by all the lockdowns and all the efforts to deal with the pandemic over the past year and a half. They've really suffered. I know people have really tried to do takeout and keep them going, but it still has been hard. So now that we are slowly opening up the province again, one of the things that is allowed is outdoor eating. So at least in my area, and I'm sure it's across the province, many restaurants that never had outdoor dining before are opening these huge, beautiful patios for outdoor dining. Of course, it doesn't work in all weather, but it's great for the summertime. And it's just so nice to see all the availability for outdoor dining. And I, for one, am really hoping that after the pandemic is over and we're completely open, that we keep that those outdoor spaces. Obviously in Ontario, you can't have that in the winter, but we can have it in 3 seasons. We could have it in most of spring, summer, and definitely into the autumn. I certainly don't mind wearing a big sweater and a scarf and going and sitting outside and having a nice meal. So I just think it's really nice. I've seen all kinds of pictures on social media of all these beautiful spaces, and they're all lit up, and it just makes me happy. So kudos to all the restaurants who are making it work, and definitely plan on supporting you and visiting as many of you as I can. Life stuff. Let's talk about life stuff. So one of the things I wanted to mention briefly, it was just kind of a funny little thing that happened, was I was returning home from doing errands. I don't exactly remember what I was doing, but when I got home, as I was coming into my house, just opening the front door, a man stopped his truck on the side of the road and came running over and said, excuse me, and I wasn't sure what to make of it, but of course I stopped to hear what he had to say. And he said, like the number of coincidences that had to happen for this to take place are just crazy. He said, I'm a beekeeper. My name is, I actually don't remember what his name is off the top of my head, but he said, I'm a beekeeper, and I was just driving up your street, going to visit another friend of mine, a friend of his, I should say, who is also a beekeeper, who lives a couple blocks down from me. And he said, as I was driving, I noticed that you have a swarm of bees in your tree, your maple tree. So would you mind if I grab those bees? I have all my equipment in my truck. Well, of course I'm going to let him take the bees. Number one, I don't want a swarm of bees in my tree. As much as I love bees, and I do love bees, I don't think it's a great idea to have a beehive forming in your tree. So what he did, it took him a few hours to do it, but he captured the queen, put it in this box, and then what happens is most of the bees will enter the box very voluntarily because they'll follow the queen. So he did not have to like kind of coax some of them in by kind of knocking them off the tree branch into the box, but it took a few hours, and then he was on his way. So, and then beekeepers can use those swarms that they find to establish hives. So I think it's great. Save the bees. We need bees. We don't need them in my tree. I prefer they're looked after by the beekeepers, and the beekeepers are amazing at looking after their bees. They go to great lengths to ensure they survive through the winter and all of that. So it's kind of interesting. I definitely thought it was a big coincidence that happened, that I just happened to have a beekeeper driving by when I had a swarm of bees in my yard. But anyways, so that was interesting. I would like to talk about, I usually try and give a shout out to, well, this is my third podcast, but I usually try and give a shout out to at least one other podcast that I have been watching and enjoying. And this week I definitely want to show some love to Hey Brown Berry podcast. The lovely lady there is Mars, and she, I've watched many of the episodes, really love them. I find her whole voice and demeanor very soothing, very calming, and she's extremely introspective. So she gives a ton of super useful information on many different crafting endeavors, but as well as providing the useful information, she also talks about her thoughts and her thought processes about the different her different creative pursuits. And she has recently been talking about, you know, sort of the difference between crafting, the process of making, and the goal of making. And I think we share a lot of similar thoughts and views. So her podcast really speaks to me, and I love to listen to the different things that she has to say. No matter whether you are looking for information or you are looking for thoughts, opinions, values, and you know, that type of thing, you'll get it with this podcast. She's great. I really can't say enough about her. Sometimes you have podcasts that you can't miss, and when I see her podcast pop up, it's one of the ones that I cannot miss. I have to watch it. So she does an excellent job. You should check it out. So I think that is it for today. I think I've talked for quite a while. Again, I will link everything down below for all the things that I've spoken about, the different companies, the different makers, podcasts, the knit-alongs, anything that I've spoken about during the podcast. I really love taking this time, setting it aside, and having you guys come and join me. If you are enjoying the podcast, if you hit the like button or subscribe, I would really appreciate it. But either way, even if you just come once in a while to join me when you happen to see the podcast pop up, that is fine too. Anyways, thank you for joining me, and I will see you soon. Take care.